Vision Radio 345 in conversation.
Hi, my name is Richard and I would like to talk to you about anxiety. I've just come back from a few days in nature, so I went out of the city. I live in London and spent a few days in a hut surrounded by woodland, something I've done once or twice before. I wanted to connect more with nature and be able to ask myself a little bit more how I'm actually feeling, rather than just kind of doing how I'm actually feeling about myself. And I was surprised by what came out as the answer. I was feeling anxious. So anxiety is something that was far more prominent than I'd kind of thought it would be in terms of my makeup. Now, if you've heard any of my earlier podcasts, you'll know that I am interested in threes. I'm interested in kind of the top, the middle, and the bottom, and I kind of put myself in the middle category of pretty much everything. So in that case, I'd put myself in the middle to top category in terms of speed of cycling, and I realise ridiculously I seem to do this for everything. So I kind of consider myself to be one of those people who's towards the middle to low end when it comes to anxiety. And I guess like other people, I can see people around me who seem to be more anxious. They have a need to speak more. They perhaps are fidgeting or whatever it is that tells me that they're more anxious than I am. Probably not true at all. But I've always kind of reassured myself that actually it's not such a big deal. But what is wonderful about spending a few days away from the city and just spending time with myself, as I was on my own in this hut, was that I started to realise just how many anxieties that just sit with me, and they just kind of get accepted by me as part and parcel of who I am. And it was great during these few days to be able to explore them. I will start by giving you a bit of a rundown of the anxieties as they came over me. So firstly, I had to make my way to this hut. I don't have a car, so it was kind of a long walk through farmland, a few footpaths, and I found myself really anxious about getting lost, really aware that I was on the wrong path, because I clearly was on the wrong path, because I wasn't getting any nearer this hut, which was meant to be reasonably close, but I just didn't seem to be getting any nearer. I found myself getting really just anxious. Would it get too dark? How would I be able to find my way there? Was I going through other people's property? Was I trespassing? So a whole raft of just BS going through my head, really, because it wasn't really that late. It kind of doesn't matter that much. I think if you go through a farmer's land, he'll probably just tell you to go somewhere else. But it was really overwhelming. It was really sitting in my body. But thanks to, I guess, just wanting to be a bit more conscious, I tried really hard to not let it dominate me as I normally would. And then, just as I'm thinking, oh, well, I'm not going to let this dominate me, the next anxiety came, because I thought, okay, it's all right, everything's fine. Because I can, of course, use my phone to locate the location of this hut. So all's well. And then, of course, the next anxiety is whether the battery of the phone will last long enough for me to actually be able to find this hut. So I'm kind of looking at the percentages going down. I'm wondering if they're going down too fast. Should I have got a newer phone that would have, where a battery would have lasted longer? And that becomes my kind of new anxiety. So I've kind of given up in the getting lost, because now I'm feeling I can do it, thanks to realising I can just use Google Maps, which is a bit sad because it was nicer when I didn't have Google Maps up. But there you go. I'm using the map, and I can see it, but will I actually be able to get there without the battery dying on me? And then other stuff started coming in to my head, like I kind of arrived finally, and immediately I'm kind of wondering and worrying a little bit about what the owner must think of me. A dog's barking at me. Does that mean that the dog has instinctively understood there's something wrong with me? Kind of this kind of thinking is going on. And then when I get into the hut, it's a compost toilet, and you can't put any toilet tissue down the toilet, and you have to use a bucket. So I'm kind of wondering, oh my God, I'm getting anxious about the toilet tissue. I don't want to see the amount of toilet tissue I'm using. Is there a certain amount you're meant to use? How much toilet tissue do other people use? Is my toilet tissue kind of dirtier than other people? Just weird but really central stuff in my mind. Really anxious about how I'm going to hide the toilet tissue. Is there a bin that I can put it in outside? And then after I spent longer inside the hut, then thankfully I'm calmed down a little bit and can start to think about the time I'm going to spend there. But then the anxieties of a slightly deeper maybe level, I don't know whether really that deep, start to emerge. Like, am I being too timid? Now that I'm in this hut, my feeling is that I should be spending most of my time outside, just kind of spending the night, perhaps all night, just sat next to a tree, exploring nature in its entirety. And I don't really want to. I'm worried that I'm feeling timid, because actually I want to go to bed, don't particularly like the idea of it's February, being in the cold all night, and I'm worried about what that says about me. And then, just as that one's kind of just stopping, the next anxiety creeps in. I suggest that every moment's anxious. Maybe it is, but it's, these is over a few hours at least. Am I doing things too fast? So it's almost like contradicts my earlier anxiety. The worry that as I'm now in nature, I should be going really slowly. I should be enjoying every leaf, every twig, every moment, every blade of grass, every tweet of a bird. I should be enjoying that in its kind of beautiful entirety. And then I'm actually just going through everything too fast. I'm anxious that I'm missing out. So I'm missing out by being too timid 1 minute. I'm missing out next by being too fast. And then kind of the last of those sets of anxieties was that I was a fraud for actually being there at all. There was no justification for me spending time in a hut. I wasn't a spiritual person at all. Should have been better used by someone else, although I was actually paying for it. So it's just the idea that I'm some sort of fraud. And as I started to become aware that anxiety was the thing that was present and worth looking at, and really exploring during these few days, my first thought was, tackle it, fight it, do battle against these anxieties, punch them, kick them, really, really take them on head first. And obviously that's not great, because these anxieties are partly caused by fears of my own danger. And so the idea of fighting them is obviously problematic, because I'm fighting something that's that is anyway a result of feeling endangered, and I think that's probably just going to add to my woes. So I rather thought, why not try and help these anxieties? Because they are a source of incredible energy. I mean, it's amazing how energized I was by all of these moments, and some of them were more than just moments. Really, really huge amounts of power. It's just that the power is over me, as opposed to power that I'm able to use effectively. So I don't want to actually get rid of these anxieties, if even I could. I want them to be just less over me and controlling me, and more things that are more a source of energy that I can use. So I thought, this is the kind of thing you do if you're in a hut on your own for a while. I'd write some love poems to my social anxieties, my emotional anxieties, and also my physical anxieties, because what I discovered after a while is deeper anxieties that were not just kind of moment by moment, but ones that sat, maybe closer to the heart of who I am or not, because these anxieties are there. So emotional anxieties around not being able to reveal enough of myself to others, being inhibited. And then, as a 51-year-old guy, physical anxieties, a worry I realised one that, of course, I know about, but it was just felt really present. An anxiety around the fact that I am obviously aging, as we all are, and I've kind of hit that age where I'm noticing, to an extent, that I am aging, and not going to reveal a little bit more about that in a poem. So I wrote these love poems to these anxieties. I'd like to share a few with you. Please do forgive me, I am not a poet, and these were written fast, but they are nonetheless poems that emerge for me over the course of this trip. So here's one. There once was a man on a trip that fate was determined to whip. So his torch lost its light at 7:30 p.m, really late at night, and on great fear he was forced to sip. Another one. There once was a guy with a phone who let out the most terrible groan, for the battery, low for a while, had now finally died, his brain and survival chances fried. And another one. This is now onto emotional anxieties. It's easier to hide in my shell and pretend that the world is unwell than to say how I feel. That's a much harder deal, which to myself I am now trying to sell. Then one about this toilet tissue, which clearly was really engaging me a lot. I keep being asked to put tissue in the bin, but for me it's a definite sin to have a backside that's not clean after I have been, so for me there's just no way to win. And then started to get a little bit more engaged with emotional issues. Here we go. Here we go, I'm trying to find it. And I have found it. Other people have done more than me. For example, sat all night under a tree. I am timid and scared. Will die from the cold or the rats let's out sigh, for both in my mind's eye I see. And another one. This one. Shush, don't let everyone know. And I don't want the rumours to grow that I'm not really a spiritual fraud, looking for earthly reward and feeling decidedly hollow. And then I got a little bit more ambitious and started to write a longer poem. This one about my physical anxieties. It's not all great getting older. The little niggles of the no longer young, the tightness in the neck, the awareness of the lower back, the farting and the increased urine flow. The body is slowly, and I emphasize slowly, disintegrating, readying slowly again to return to the earth, to be the earth which it has always been, to connect with infinitude where it has always been. In the meantime, watch with care and love. Be attentive to your beauty and the wondrousness of all around. Embrace anxiety as delightful boosts of energy and head along your paths full of love and hope. Do not despair, ego crazed, but let infinite wisdom be your guide. Be blessed, the same as all are blessed. There you go. That is me on day 3, suggesting that this trip to the hut was definitely a good use of my time. I've sounded a lot more healthy and connected with myself than I did with the earlier poems. So definitely an advert for staying in a hut. At least it feels like to me. That feels like a much more connected poem with how I actually feel. So what have I learned? I have learned to treat my anxieties with some respect, that they can be listened to and should be listened to, but they don't actually have to be adhered to. Just because my anxieties are telling me something doesn't mean I have to do it. But it is good to listen, to pay attention, close attention to them, to be more conscious of these anxieties. In large part, because if I can be conscious of them, perhaps I don't have to be so immediately locked in by them, but can see them as friends, as sources of energy, rather than sources of control over me. And my big hope, as I emerge from the woodland and my hut, and now I'm back in the city, is that some of this awareness that I seem to now have, temporarily, I hope permanently, about anxiety will stay with me now that I'm back in the city. My life would certainly be a better place if I don't let anxieties lock themselves around me, but rather allow myself to connect with them in a more meaningful and maybe almost beautiful way. Okay, thank you. All the best.
To leave your comments or views about any of our podcast episodes, go to visionradio345@gmail.com.